Nico Iamaleava's transfer has significantly dropped expectations for Tennessee across the board, despite the fact that they added Joey Aguilar in his place. Their win total on FanDuel dropped from 9.5 to 8.5. Their odds for winning a national title, reaching the college football playoff, have all gone down. Their post-spring top 25 rankings have completely collapsed. They were flirting with the top 10 before spring practice. Now most have them out of the top 25. The highest was number 12 at USA Today, but multiple ones have them completely outside of the top 25, including ESPN, including 247 Sports. So many people don't even think they will be ranked now throughout this year based on what happened. Josh Heupel, meanwhile, is entering his 5th year as head coach of Tennessee. Obviously, he made a splash hit by his 2nd year, going 11-2 and finishing number 6 and having Tennessee in the college football playoff race. Had already impressed people by just going 7-6 his first year. Hasn't been able to repeat the magic of 2022, though, as he went 9-4 in 2023 with Joe Milton at quarterback, and then with all the hype surrounding Nico Iamaleava last year, did go 10-2 and then lost the first playoff game to Ohio State to finish 10-3, but didn't make the college football playoff. At the same time, the passing game that everybody was excited about with Heupel wasn't there last year, and Nico Iamaleava ended up transferring in what was a major blow for Tennessee, given how they went to publicly went to war for Iamaleava going into last year. So I'm asking all this, and this is the poll question now to set this up. Typically, when a head coach with Josh Heupel's resume enters his 5th year, you expect the program to be at a level of an 8 or 9 win team minimum each year, no matter what happens. But does Josh Heupel get a mulligan for 2025, given what happened with the Nico Iamaleava situation? And that is today's tough question. It is brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Does Josh Heupel get a mulligan if Tennessee struggles in 2025 because of the Nico Iamaleava situation? Typically, again, the reason I bring this up is if Josh Heupel, if Nico was back and Josh Heupel and Tennessee went 6-6, Heupel's 5th year, there'd be serious questions about Tennessee's future under Josh Heupel because it would be his 5th year. And that doesn't mean he'd be fired, but he might enter 2026 on the hot seat. Now with Nico Iamaleava gone, though, is he allowed to do that? Is he allowed to almost have a year similar to what his first year was like in 2021? I'm going to say no. Now, you guys can vote on this on the poll question, but I'm going to say no. And here's why I'm going to say no. Josh Heupel, the question surrounding Josh Heupel from the start has been Josh Heupel, the GM, not Josh Heupel, the head coach and the football guy. It's on Josh Heupel that Tennessee went all in and opened the checkbook for Nico Iamaleava and then had all this drama with him over the last 2 years. That is totally on Josh Heupel. He pushed Tennessee to do that. It's also on Josh Heupel if Tennessee doesn't have an adequate quarterback ready to step in and replace him. And it's on Josh Heupel if Tennessee doesn't have the talent and skill players on the offensive side of the ball to still have the offense do what it needs to do without Nico Iamaleava. Heupel's known as an offensive guru. He turned Drew Lock into an NFL draft pick. He balled out with McKenzie Milton, balled out with Dylan Gabriel, made Hendon Hooker a Heisman candidate. The whole selling point of Josh Heupel's offense is it doesn't really matter the quarterback necessarily. They can put up big numbers if the personnel is there. So if Nico Iamaleava is gone, while I did say Nico Iamaleava was created in a lab to run Josh Heupel's offense, and I stood by that even through last year with the way things went, if he can't keep this offense performing at a high rate, without Nico Iamaleava, then I got to say that Josh Heupel will never be a good enough, we'll say GM or scouter of talent or evaluator of talent to turn Tennessee into a national championship contender. So unless Tennessee hires a GM, which that's a topic for another day, we're going to debate that next week. But unless Tennessee hires a GM, as long as Josh Heupel's making the personnel decisions, no, he shouldn't get a mulligan. I don't care how the Nico Iamaleava thing went down. That's how the transfer portal works in college football now. He should be prepared for that, and he should have known and been able to offset it with his roster building outside of that. So the poll question is up now. You guys vote on it. Should Josh Heupel get a mulligan for 2025? It's very simple. Yes or no. I say no. I think Josh Heupel should be held accountable for the roster decisions he makes. Everybody else and every other coach in history has been that way. Okay. They get the credit if they're not great coaches, but they recruit well and go win a national title. Ed Orgeron. They also get the blame if one of the problems is that they're not recruiting well. That is a narrative surrounding the program. Part of recruiting well now is roster building through the transfer portal also, and not just and still on the trail. So you have to be held accountable for your roster building decisions. And Josh Heupel, without a GM, having pushed Tennessee to declare open war on the NCAA on behalf of Nico Iamaleava and to open the checkbook for Nico Iamaleava, doesn't get a mulligan just because that whole thing blew up in his face. He's the one that wanted that to happen. He's the one that pushed the university to take the risk that they took for Nico Iamaleava. He's also the one that went for Joey Aguilar after Nico Iamaleava transferred. He's the one that signed Mike Matthews. He's the one who signed Chris Brazel. He's the one who signed Braylon Staley. He's the one who signed the entire offensive line. No Pruitt guys are there anymore. This is Josh Heupel's team. It's year 5. He doesn't get a mulligan just because of the Nico Iamaleava situation. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. Please vote on the poll question. Should Josh Heupel get a mulligan for 2025? Yes or no? Here's a quick message from Banks & Jones.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott.
Should Josh Heupel get a mulligan for 2025, given the Nico Iamaleava situation? The poll question is up. 56% of you say yes. 44% of you say no. I'm with the 44%. I don't think he should get a mulligan. I think it's on Josh Heupel to address the situation and be able to offset what happened. It's year 5. Roster building matters. And I want to go to the message board real quick because a great point was made by Steve Sullivan here. Does Heupel get an extra bonus if he has another playoff team without Nico? Exactly. It's not like Josh Heupel's not going to get credit if Tennessee performs well without Nico next year and get an extra bonus. Why shouldn't they get a mulligan? Gene Phillips adds, they all make too much to have a mulligan. Yeah, look, the thing about coaching is you don't have to win a national title every year. You don't have to be a top 10 team every year. You don't have to be a top 5 team every year. You don't have to do those things. You don't even have to make the college football playoff every year, even when it's at 12 teams. But you do have to get to a point to where you have a floor, okay? And that floor needs to be 8 wins. And I don't think 6-6 in year 5 is going to be able to cut it for Tennessee or Josh Heupel. I just don't think that's something that is adequate. I think Tennessee has a standard. I think that a head coach, once they get the program where it needs to be, should have a baseline of success that they're going to have. And Josh Heupel got 11 wins his second year, 10 wins his fourth year, 9 wins his third year, to be fair. If he takes a drop off to go to 6-6 this year because of a mulligan, because of what happened, well, you honestly can't sit there and say that it's unfair because of the Nico Iamaleava situation when he took all the risk for Nico Iamaleava. So I'm not saying, and when I say mulligan, guys, I don't mean they go 9-3 and miss the playoff. That's fine. I'm not saying Heupel's on the hot seat if that happens. I'm saying mulligan like they go 6-6 or 5-7. Look, missing a bowl game is on the table, okay? If they miss a bowl game, yeah, they should be in trouble. I'm sorry, that should be the case. A couple points on the message board, too. Elias Gray says it depends on the extent of the issues. Yes, but the extent to a certain degree would be Josh Heupel's fault. But I get your point. David Speak says, I would say yes, referring to Steve Sullivan's comment, does Heupel get an extra bonus? He says, I could see like 97 where we lost Peyton and Little and we were poised to win like 8 or 9 games and win the Natty. I could see a 10 or 11 win playoff team, though. Yeah, but David, 8 or 9 wins is still fine. I'm talking 6-6, 5-7. Elias says that he said, I voted no, but I'll give some leeway if they go 9-3 instead of 10-2 or even 8-4 where they are competitive against every power in the schedule. That's fair. I'm with you on that. Elias, if they do go 8-4, that is totally fair. I would give Josh Heupel a break on that. I think 8-4 in a down year is expected for a coach at Tennessee, even when they're at their peak, okay? Philip Fulmer went 8-4 in 1994. He went 8-4 in 2000. No one really questioned that he still had the program rolling during that time. They knew the situations for those years. You're allowed those years at Tennessee. Not even just at Tennessee, at Florida. I mean, Spurrier went 9-4, I believe, in 1999, was it? So I don't think it's a problem if you go 8-4. 7-5 is questionable. You know, you go 7-5, maybe when your bowl game finish 8-5, we have a conversation. But if you go 6-6 or 5-7, yes, I think he should be on the hot seat going into 2026. You can't blame the Nico Iamaleava situation when he's at fault for the Nico Iamaleava situation. And that's the key point I want to bring up. Josh Heupel made the decisions for the Nico Iamaleava situation. That's why I'm so gung-ho on the fact that, yes, he should be held accountable if that cost him this year and they end up having a bad year. You don't get that type of mulligan just because you had some personnel situations blow up in your face. You're responsible for those personnel decisions as the head coach unless you hire a general manager, which Tennessee has not done. We will address next week. Maybe they should hire a general manager, but as of right now, it all falls back on Josh Heupel.